What's up guys, today I'm going to show you how to create a simple map spawning system in Roblox. By the end of this video you'll have a fully functional system that randomly selects a map, spawns a player at random spawn points, and removes the player and the map after a set time before looping the process all over again. So as you guys saw in the video or at the beginning, that's exactly what we're going to be doing. And okay, so to get started, what we're going to do is basically set up our game. So what we're going to do is go and open up the Explorer. So if you guys don't have this, we're going to go over to View and open these two guys up right here. So Explorer and Properties. And what we're going to do is we're going to go in Folder and we're going to create, oops, not a script, but we're going to create a folder and we're going to duplicate this. So we're going to copy and we're going to paste and we're going to make two folders inside of this. So we should have a total of 3 folders. So the top one will be called map holder, and make sure that it's capitalized correctly so that the script actually understands it. Then the other one will be called current map. This one will be called important. And then inside of important, what we're going to do is we're going to create a spawn point. So we're going to use a part, and essentially what this does is going to control the player's spawn. Whenever the game ends, it's going to spawn the player back, so for example, if you have a mini game, it's going to spawn the player back into the lobby. Alright, so the size of the part doesn't really matter, but we're just going to kind of change some of the properties. So instead of size, we're going to do 1, 1, 1 to give this kind of cubic thing. Then we're going to basically put it above the ground. It doesn't really matter. The code is going to make it so that the player doesn't spawn in between it. Now what we're going to do, which is very important, we're going to click anchored so that way it doesn't fall, and we're going to click can collide off so that way players can pass through this. We don't want it to interfere. Then we're going to make transparency equal to 1. So if you guys can just tell, transparency equals to 1 so that way it's invisible. Now we're going to go ahead and call this, we're going to change the name to player spawn. So this is where players will spawn back at the game. So we're going to put it, and we're going to click and drag into the important folder. So this is how your setup should look. You should have 3 folders, and only inside of one, which is called important, should you have a player spawn. Now for the fun part, if you guys have maps already, then you guys are more than welcome to kind of skip through this a little bit, but for the people that don't have maps, I'm just going to kind of give a rough explanation of how it works and how we're going to have everything set up. And I have already created some maps, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this video and I'm going to import them, and then we're going to go over it. Okay, so these are my maps. So for context, this is not one that I made. I found this in Toolbox. So this was not made by me, but these two I just kind of made, as you guys can see, just kind of different colors. But this is the most important part, right? So you have your map, right? It should be a model, right? So for those that don't know what a model is or how to make it a model, typically, if you have a bunch of parts together, right? Let's say you have this guy over here and this one over here, and you just want to basically, control all of them without having to drag every time. So what you're going to do is click and drag it, or just select them all in Explorer, and then right click, and we're going to do group as model, and that essentially allows it to be one. And so that's what we need to actually be to make the map be, so that way it can actually work with the system. So now once you have the model, all you have to do is just click it and then go to name and then just change it, and that's what the map name will be. So the next part, this is the most important part of the map setup. We want to have a player spawns. We want to have spawn points for this map, right? So basically inside of the maps, we want to have a folder called spawn points, right? So spawn points, and inside the folder we want to have multiple little parts, right? So similar to the player spawn that we made over here, right? I'll make this red for purposes, So this is our player spawn, right? So we essentially have this, but for maps now. So inside of both of these, for example, I'll show you guys right now, we just have them as yellow parts, right? So colors don't matter. This is just so that way you guys can understand and see the differences. But as you can see, they can be touching the ground, they can be floating, it doesn't matter. Like I said, the code is going to handle that. But if you don't want the player, if you want the code to solely handle that, just set all the spawn points to the ground. But essentially, this is what you want, right? And inside, just like the spawn point. So if anything, what you can do is just duplicate this, right? And just start adding them in here, just like that. But we just want to drag it inside of the correct map folder, right? So now that you have your spawn points, you just want to make sure that they all have the same properties, right? So you want them to have can collide unchecked, so that way players can pass through them. Anchored is checked, so that way players don't, sorry, so that way the parts don't fall. And then you just want to set them all to a transparency of 1 or 0. It's really up to you guys, but I'm assuming you don't want players to be able to see the spawn points. So I'm going to do the same for this one right here as well. Okay, so great. Now that we have all of this completed, right? So you have your maps, all the stuff are made, right? Now what we want to do is go into replicated storage, and we're going to click on folder, and these, we're going to call it maps. These are where we're going to store our maps. So we're just going to click and drag all of them, where you can hold shift, select from the top, hold shift, and then click down to the bottom, and it'll select everything. Click and drag it into replicated storage. So this is where the script will randomly select one. And so now that you have that done, all you're going to do is go inside a server script, and you're going to add a script. Okay, so we're going to take out this basic starter. Alright guys, so basically this is the end of the code. So to just kind of give a summary of what we just did, this is the function that actually generates the map, obviously, as you can tell. So it first checks, it gets everything inside of this map folder in a replicated storage. I don't know why, I just kind of had like a little lag spark right there, but it's gonna get everything inside of this folder, right? So everything inside of the map. So if it equals 0, if there's nothing in here, then it's gonna end the code and nothing else will happen, right? But if it doesn't, then it's gonna continue everything down here. So it's gonna grab a random map from the map list, right? So it's just gonna select one, right? A random one, and it's gonna clone it. Then it's gonna find the player spawn that we talked about in workspace. Then it's gonna spawn the player into that workspace area, kind of a way to gather all the players. Then at the end, it's going to destroy the current map. So if there's any maps in the game already, it's going to destroy what's already in the map or in the folder. Then it's going to parent it, so adding it into the workspace. Then it's going to get all the spawn points within that folder. And that folder is the one that we talked about right here. So that's why it's important to make sure these are parts as well, not anything else. So we don't want it as models, we want them as parts. Then this is a teleport player, so this is essentially what's going to be controlling the teleportation for the players. And so it's going to find a random spawn point, which are these parts, and that's where it's going to select to choose a player. So now this is where I was talking about, in case you guys wanted to just have the code decide how high the player is going to spawn. So imagine this is the Y, right? So the Y goes up and down, so the higher the Y 75, that's where the player would essentially spawn, right? So we're gonna do 7 studs above the ground, so that way they don't spawn in between the base plate or anything like that. And then that's gonna be the same for the spawn point over here. Then down here, this is the while true. So this is basically a loop. This is gonna be printing every single time the countdown. So if you guys, for example, want to have a longer countdown, for example 30 seconds before it actually generates the map, then this is the number you guys are going to want to change. Everything else you want to just leave the way it is. Then it's going to select the spawn points and generate the map and teleport the players. So we're just going to give this a try now. As you can see, it's saying map changing in 10, 9, 8, and we're going to see what's going to happen. We're also going to open this up. As you can see, there are no maps right now. Then there's a map in here, and now we got teleported. So this is basically how to make a simple map spawning system. Very easy to scale, and so by scale I mean, you know, add in new maps without having to take an enormous amount of time to implement. Everything is very easy. All you have to do is add some spawn points essentially and add it into this folder. And the rest takes care of itself. If you guys want to see more videos like this or have suggestions for what kind of tutorials you guys would love to see, or you know, understand how it works and stuff like that, just feel free to drop them down in the comments below. Like I said in the beginning of the video, there is a model down in the description, so if you find something happens to be wrong with your code and it's not working, feel free to just grab the model down in the description and look through it. If you guys still don't find a answer, just send a message down in the comments and I'll try my best to reply. That being said, this is all. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you guys want some more, and thank you for watching.